Hi cuties! It's time to talk about all the books that I read in May. I did not finish my entire TBR, but I got about halfway through it. I read a total of 14 books this last month, and a lot of them were pretty big. So, just saying, that's why I didn't get as many as I did, in April when I read 25. So while I read 14 books, I read one quadrilogy, but there were two other books, but they're kind of companions, so I didn't get to those. And then two duologies. Well, I started one duology and I didn't like it, so sort of. And then, other single books. So, without further ado, let's talk about those books. I am very late to the Lunar Chronicles party. Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and Winter. I have finally gotten on the train for Lunar Chronicles, and this is so fun. So each book surrounds a famous fairy tale. So we have Cinder, which is obviously Cinderella, Scarlet, which is Little Red Riding Hood, Cress, which is Rapunzel, and Winter, which is Snow White. But they all are blended together in this sci-fi world with cyborgs and androids and evil empires with mind control powers. It's very interesting how all of the stories are interwoven. It's multiple POVs, and I really loved this. I gave each book, I gave 4 stars, but it feels like a 5-star series to me because I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about the characters and wanting to know, what are their lives like after this now? It's really cute, and I read them as an audiobook, and the audiobooks are very well done. I think of the series, Cress is my favorite. I am Cresswell trash. It's just got so much going on with it. Like, you have the fairy tale, so there should be a happy ending, but it's so high stakes that you're not sure if it will. And it really brings that fairy tale to life in this weird sci-fi world with Earth and the moon. The Lunars who have this ability to kind of manipulate someone based on their bioelectricity or something. It's very confusing. There's a plague going on, so timely. It's got so many layers to it. There are also new covers out, which I love a lot more, and I wish they were releasing them in hardcover, because that's one of the reasons I hadn't picked this one up, because I wasn't a fan of the covers. I think they're just kind of bland. I don't know. Granted, they're very Twilighty covers in that sense. They have the same kind of color scheme a little bit, and with the red highlight under the blackish background, black and blue, I guess. That's one of the reasons why I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like it, but I really did, and I love all the pairings, even though, so there is controversy with this because of a lot of the pairing. There is a pairing that's extremely dependent on one another. There's one that people argue about the age gap, and it's only a 4-year age gap, but it is my favorite one. It's my Cress and Thorn, and Thorn apparently is 20. I did not remember that he was 20 at all while reading this, and Cress, I guess, is 16. It is really weird, but in the context of the story, this isn't our modern day world right now. If I saw a 20-year-old dating a 16-year-old right now, no, not okay, but it's fictional. That's what you kind of have to deal with. This is a fictional world. This was written in, gosh, I don't even know, 2012 was the first book released. So in this time of YA romance, those were not really the concerns, and it's just a matter of suspending disbelief and being able to separate the fact that this is not a guidebook to what real relationships should be like. It's a fairy tale. It's a sci-fi fairy tale, and I can accept it for that. That's why I can like Cress and Thorn as a ship. It's why I can like Scarlet and Wolf as a ship, but that's because it's their personal experience. It's not saying all society should be this way, and I feel like people lose the ability to do some critical thinking here. That's why I thoroughly enjoyed them. They're a happy, fantastical, high-stakes, sci-fi, romance, fairy tale retellings with swoony guys and such a great, intricate plot. The reason I know about the controversy is because I went on Tumblr looking for fan art and stuff of my favorite ships, and this is what people were talking about, and I was like, okay, I get it, but I want to defend because I love this series so much now. It's pretty fast paced. The last book is really long. It looks like it's not, but it's actually over 800 pages. The pages are super wafy thin, and it was like a 24-hour audiobook, but it's so fast paced. that you don't notice how long they are. So Lunar Chronicles is a 5-star series, 4-star individual book. Next up, in the month of retellings, I forgot to mention that all month I was reading retellings except for one. Oh, I realized, yeah, I forgot. One of these is an audiobook that I don't have a physical copy of because it was also the Bookymon Readathon. How did I already forget? It's Bookymon. I'll go over my stats at the end of this now. I'll just go through my books and tell you all that. There was one group book that everybody had to read. It was not a fairy tale retelling, but you had to read it as part of your team. Anyway, going on, we're going to talk about Little Mermaid retelling, and that is Part of Your World by Liz Braswell. This is the 4th book in the Twisted series. I have not read any of the other ones, but you don't have to. They're not sequential. They are all individuals. And the concept of Part of Your World is what if Ariel had never defeated Ursula at the end of the Little Mermaid movie. This is interesting because, again, Ariel, Miss 16-year-old drama, I love him father, is much more grown up in this and recognizes that she was a foolish teenager, which I really, really appreciated. Like, this addresses some of the issues that people now are bringing to light in the old Disney movies, and it was done really, really well. Ursula is still Vanessa, and she is married to Eric, and she has really put a spell on not only him, but the entire kingdom to, you know, love her and stuff. And she's on kind of murderous conquest. She's a conqueror, taking out other neighboring villages and kingdoms and stuff. And she is out for blood. She's kind of loving her life on the surface now, even though she no longer has magic because she is a sea witch. She's not in the sea. But the big thing is Scuttle. Scuttle's the inciter of all this story. Scuttle is still around, and his granddaughter sees that Triton is still being kept by Ursula. He's not dead. He's still in that weird form, what is it? I forget what they're called. The weird, slimy, weird creatures that she now keeps in a tube. Tells Scuttle, and Scuttle tells Flounder, who tells Ariel about. Ariel still has no voice, and she is ruling in her father's stead as kind of punishment because her sisters didn't want to do it. It was her fault that their dad got captured and killed, and so now she has to rule in his place. And she's taken on her duties very seriously. She's much more mature in this, but now that she hears that her dad is still alive, it is rescue mission time, and shenanigans ensue. We get all of our favorite characters back in action, and I thought this was a really fun way of twisting the tale, if you will. I want to read more of the Twisted Tales. I just didn't get to any of the other ones, but I definitely will be continuing with the other stories. There's like seven or 8 of them out now. There's so many, and I own the Aladdin, the Beauty and the Beast, the Sleeping Beauty, Peter Pan, Mulan, and Snow White. Those are the ones I own. They just released a Cinderella one called So This Is Love, and they have a Frozen one called Conceal Don't Feel. I think those are the only ones I don't own right now. This was a good one to start on. Duology time and super big book time. We've read Sky Without Stars and the sequel Between Burning Worlds. I had to go buy this. This is part of my haul this last month, and I needed it because it was such a good series. There's a 3rd book. It's not over yet. I thought it was a duology. It is not. This is The System Divine. It is by Jessica Brody and Joanne Randell, and it is a Les Mis retelling in space. However, it's only like half Les Mis. This series has our 3 characters, Chatine, Marcellus, and Alouette. And those respectively are Eponine, Marius, and Cosette. So we're basically starting halfway through Les Mis, and Valjean is not a huge character. Javert is more of a huge character. His name is Lumiere in this, and he is a cyborg police officer or inspector. We live in La Terre, which is this, you know, whole planet that is very French and sci-fi and dystopian. It's very interesting how this was done. I wasn't liking it at first, because I cannot stand Alouette and Marcellus. And that is because I cannot stand Cosette and Marius in Les Mis. I read this mostly for Chatine's character. I adore her. I adore Eponine in Les Mis. And I definitely liked the sequel more than the first book because this is pretty close to it. However, where is Angelos? Where is he? excuse you, he was not even in this book. He's in this one, but barely. And you don't do that to my boy. He's supposed to be Marcellus's best friend, Marius's best friend. So why isn't he his best friend here? Excuse you? You don't do that to my boy, all right? But he's now in this one. He's barely in it. We do have some newer characters, and I absolutely loved Etienne. This is why I'm desperate for the third book, because you can't leave my new ship like that. Excuse you. I think not. I don't want to tell you the spoilers of it all, but I have a ship. We have some interesting characters in this. It expands much farther into this. I did call the twist. That was obvious from the beginning, really. But I was disappointed in one thing that I was hoping for. I was hoping that Alouette's mum was something bigger than what she was, because I love Fantine as a character too. I don't know why I'm holding them like this. I really wanted Fantine's character, which I've already forgotten her name because she's such a non-thing in these books, to be this citizen Rousseau, right? It's Rousseau who's this like big threat to the entire monarchy, patriarchy that they have, and I really wanted her to be that, but she's not, and I was disappointed by that. This series so far, I am really enjoying it. It is very big. I read this on audiobook as well. I really like the voice actor for Chatine. I thought the Marcellus one was okay. I hated the one for Alouette, and I know this voice actress. She actually voiced The Bride Test by Helen Huang, which was really good, but as Alouette, it made her sound like Alouette was always on the verge of tears, and she's always shaking like this, and I didn't like that. It's one of the reasons I really hate that character. I cannot stand Gazette people. Such a whiny character. Chatine is who I read this for. Moving on, we read Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie Miclemore. This is her latest release. It is the retelling of the story of the Dancing Plague or the Dancing Slippers. There's a few different interpretations of this thing that might have been a real part of history, but also is a myth. I'm not entirely sure, but I love this. It's a dual timelined multiple POV. We have it in modern day, and we have it in, gosh, way 1518. It does have trans representation in this. Anna Marie Miclemore's prose is so beautiful. This might be my new favorite Anna Marie Miclemore book. It might beat out When the Moon Was Ours, which is also amazing. I just love her writing. It's so different. It's all magical realism. That is her style. It just kind of transports you into this other world, and I was completely entranced by it. It was so powerful in what it was saying. This involved a lot of Romani culture as well. There's a lot of Latinx culture, because that's I believe Anna Marie Miclemore is Latinx. She always has some kind of Latinx culture. I'm not sure if it's fully like from Mexican or if it is Latin America or something, but it has that full, I'm gonna say Hispanic because I don't know a better word for it because I'm unsure for certain, but it always has that Spanish feeling, Spanish culture and myths, but all of her stuff involves that. And so it's a really good POC author and culture and LGBT representation. So if you're looking for something that has that, definitely pick up her writing because they're beautiful and thought-provoking and just great. There you go. Next up, we read a actually that's not a duology. Well, it's kind of a duology. There is another book that I just picked up by this author, but it's considered 2.5, and I didn't get to it. But that is Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow and Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix. This is a Snow White retelling. The first book is all about the evil queen, and the second one is more Snow White herself. And that's where I lost it. I really liked Forest of a Thousand Lanterns. I didn't like Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix as much. It was still good, but like Snow White is my least favorite fairy tale. I don't like it very much at all, and I kind of hate her as one of like the famous princesses. I think she's boring. Just saying. I would have preferred this book still in Shifeng's perspective, and that's the name of the Empress. We have Shifeng here, who has always known that she's destined for the crown, basically, even though she's a poor girl, but there is a lot of spooky magic. There's like this massive demon thing, and she does have her own love of this guy named Wei, who is so precious, and I feel so bad for Wei because he deserves better. Sad for his kind of ending in this entire duology. Xifeng's, you know, she's kind of a relatable villain because she doesn't start out, you know, meaning like, I'm gonna kill everyone. She's just like, I know I'm destined for this. I know I can make the world better because it's all on me. And she has these beliefs, and that's the good kind of villain, where the villain believes in what they stand for, and that's just what makes a good one. I also really appreciate it that she's not a villain because some man broke her heart. She is a villain because of who she is, and her own beliefs that she thought were in the light get twisted in this court life, dealing with this other concubine that she thinks is her real enemy based on the cards that she has read, that her aunt has read, her Guma read for her, and she gets close with the current empress and then is like, oh no, is the empress the actual villain? And it's, no, it's not, because you know it's Snow White, but Snow White hasn't been born yet. It's such an interesting take on it. It's rich in Asian mythology. It's kind of much more centralized, like if this fictional world were a modern country, be China, but you do have some Japanese and some full Asian cultures going on. The one thing I will praise for Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix is who Snow White's love interest is. It's not some beautiful, tall, handsome prince. It's someone else entirely. And I thought that was really, really good because you don't get it. I don't want to spoil it for you because while I didn't enjoy this as much as this one, it's still a very good book. It's a full adventure scale where they're running around all of Asia collecting all of these artifacts to help defeat the queen or the empress. So there you go. I do have Song of the Crimson Flower, which I think might be more Beauty and the Beast-ish, I'm not sure, but it's book 2.5, so it's not a full trilogy. I don't know if there's gonna be a third one officially with this or just more companions, but there you go. Next up, as another audiobook, I read Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. This is a King Arthur retelling in space. I read a lot of sci-fi this month. I'm not gonna lie, a majority of the books I read were sci-fi. Unfortunately, while I do like Amy Rose Capetta's Brilliant Death, I did not enjoy this book. I thought it was very underdeveloped, and it portrays a huge LGBT cast, which I appreciated, but it didn't feel organic. A lot of the time, like, we have the character of Merlin, who is aging backwards in all of this, and Merlin is now a teenager for this, but he's been reincarnated so many times, and he's supposed to hold on to all of his knowledge. He makes references to modern culture, so him being confused by gender fluidity, non-binary, and stuff like that didn't really make sense to me, and his whole struggle with it. It didn't really work. Merlin ends up gay in this, and our Arthur is a girl in this. This is also gender bent King Arthur. She's bisexual, and she and Guinevere do get together. I really, really hate the Lancelot plot line. Like, I called it ahead of time, but I really hate it. I'm not a fan in general of the King Arthur myths because of this plot line, and it irks me a lot. I do appreciate the show Merlin. I think that handled the Lancelot plotline really well. In this, I really didn't like it. It's just such a weird universe that was kind of cheesy, and the villain was not well developed either. The villain was very much like trying to be like, well, I deserve whatever gets me the most money kind of villain, but he is very much like, I'm the villain, and stating it without really believing in his own cause, and blah. And I didn't really understand Morgana's whole point of view, her whole story with this either. Just, it felt bland. Like, I love Morgana as a character of the King Arthur myth. Like, Morgana is one of my faves, and I didn't like her whole character in this, her whole hand in this. There wasn't really a hand in this. It was just she pops up every now and then to torture Merlin and then leaves. I didn't get it. With the representation in it, it felt like we just want to say that we have all of these instead of making it organically part of the storyline, and it felt kind of cheap, which is weird because in the Brilliant Death, the gender fluidity representation there is so good and on point. I don't understand what went wrong with this, but I'm not going to go on to read Sword in the Stars, which is the sequel. I'm just not into it. That was, I think, the biggest disappointment of the month was this one. Next up, I have my group book for the Bookymon Readathon, and that is the 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. So this is not a retelling at all. It is a historical fantasy where we have a girl who finds these doors that go into other worlds, basically, but she doesn't really go in them. She just knows they exist. Her father is this adventurer as well, and he leaves her with a caretaker who, you know, big conspiracies. He has a secret society. She's also a girl of color, but she's half, so she confuses a lot of people because of the historical period and because of her status with her guardian, basically. It was a very interesting read. I kind of lost it a little bit. I was worried about the romance that happens in this because I thought we were just gonna leave it at that ending point, but thankfully there is a decent epilogue in this. I don't want to spoil it a lot for you because it's very much a mystery in her journey to figuring out about her parents' life, and because she never knew her mom and like who her mom was and what all of these weird pieces that are coming together, she doesn't know how to put them together. So it's this very interesting mystery journey with a secret society, magic doors, this ability to open or close said doors. So it was very magical. I do want to buy it as a physical read, and I do recommend it. I thought it was probably a 4 or like a 3.75-ish for me, not quite lower than that, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the storytelling was really good. I thought the representation was pretty good in it as well. It was a book I'd heard a lot about, but was still unsure of how I would feel about it, and I was kind of glad that Bookymon had this as the Team Mystic book because I enjoyed it. So yeah. 2 more. We have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and this very, very loosely is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. Very loosely. It's kind of a historical fantasy, kind of Russian. We have Miriam, we have Wanda, and Irina, and those are our 3 main female POVs. There were some other POVs that were brought into this at a later time that I was kind of like, why did we need that one here now? But it's really the story of these 3 women dealing with not only their lot in life, but overcoming that lot in life, especially with Miriam. She's the daughter of a moneylender, and he's really bad at his job. He gives the money out, but he doesn't really ask for it back. And so she becomes more of a loan shark and demands this back, and if they don't have the money, she'll take other things from them like food or tools or even Wanda. Wanda's father has a major debt to Miriam's family, and in order to pay that, Miriam is like, I'll take your daughter and she'll come work for me. But she makes a arrangement with her where she'll pay her for her time as well. And so Wanda now can kind of save money to get out of her father because her father is a very abusive man, and she has 2 brothers who she's not close with, but she will defend. That's a really beautiful sibling story that happens for Wanda. So there are this mythical creatures called the Starek, who are kind of the Fae, if you will. They bring winter about, and everyone fears them because they have plowed through villages before and destroyed them. They have left the Jewish people alone, and Miriam is a Jew and accidentally attracts the attention of the king of the Starek by flaunting how, you know, she can turn silver to gold because she's so good at her job. She meant it figuratively, but you know, Fae, they're very literal creatures. The Starek give her a task to turn some silver into gold, which she does through money lending and stuff, and she ends up making a ring out of the Starek silver that she gives to a duke, and everyone is entranced because Starek silver is very magical. The Starek make her do it again, and this time they make a necklace, and they make her do it again, and this time they make a crown, and all of this jewelry is now ending up on the Duke's daughter Irina, who is going to be sold off to the Tsar, who is a childhood friend of Irina, and he's horrible, but lo and behold, possessed. It's very magical. We have these 3 very intricate storylines that meld really well together. It's very interesting. Some of the prose I wasn't a huge fan of because sometimes it is very like just told instead of shown. A few like he said he did this moments that kind of brought me out of the book, but it might have been part of the way that the characters think in very stilted thoughts in their train of thoughts. It kind of works, but in a way, and sometimes it didn't. With Miriam, it works a lot. With other characters, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Overall, I really enjoyed this. I do want to read Naomi Novik's other book, Uprooted, but I do highly recommend this. It's a fairly good audiobook. I will give it that. just sometimes because of the accents, I didn't know who was who for a while. I did not know certain character names because I was unsure of pronunciation versus how it was written. So good either way, depending on how your ears function. And lastly, we read The Forbidden Wish by Jessica Corey. I added this one after the fact because I realized for a Pokemon theme, I didn't have one that was set for a Middle Eastern setting, which was one of the challenges because it is an Aladdin retelling, so I wanted to put that on there. And I went into this thinking it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be a 3-star read. But I think this suffers from kind of boring cover syndrome because the inside is much more enticing. This is also gender bent for Aladdin, not Aladdin himself, but for the genie. So the genie is Zara, as we will call her Zara. She is a very powerful genie. She's a shaitan, and Aladdin finds her with a magic ring, basically, that leads him to her. And they, you know, of course, the whole story of Aladdin, he's gonna pretend to be a prince, but he's not really in love with the princess. He wants revenge on the guy who's probably gonna marry the princess. And so he gets wrapped up into court life, trying to figure out his revenge plot, while all the while Zara did this whole plot because one of her other genies that she knows has been kidnapped. And so the whole god of all of the genies has told her that she needs to go rescue him, and in return he'll free her. And that's what she wants. She's been trapped in a lamp for 500 years, and she's like 4,000 years old herself. She wants freedom, so she agrees to do this. Of course, everything goes awry. Aladdin, you know, is gonna get exposed, just like in the story of Aladdin. And it's very interesting because then the love story that happens is not Aladdin and the princess. You get where I'm going with this. It works in a really good way. I liked it. I was worried about this twist in the plot, but it works, and it's very cute. And Aladdin is just this lovesick puppy for her, and it's very cute that way. I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed the ending for this. I loved the characters of the Watch Maidens, which are the princess's personal guards. Like, they're meant to be just like, oh, they're just the women of the palace, but secretly they're all badasses. And I really, really like those characters. I kind of want their own story because they were just so fun. So I do recommend this one. I gave this 4 stars. I just think it needs a cover redesign. That's what this one needs. All right, so before we go, it was the Pokemon Readathon. I completed every challenge for Team Mystic and a few other ones as well. So for Pokemon Readathon, I had a little Pokemon, which was my ampersand shrew, which got me 500 points for each book on my TBR, and then you would get points for how many pages you read. Obviously, I read pretty big books, so that helped me a lot. And then for completing challenges. So overall, I earned my Team Mystic 24,267 points. I'm pretty proud of that. On the day that I checked it, I haven't checked in it a bit, I was, of my team, we had over 100 team members. I'm number 8 in contributions for my team. So I'm going to be pretty proud of that. It could have changed because people could have added stuff last minute, but as of when I checked it on the last day of Pokemon, I was in number 8 for my team, at least, not overall. Probably much lower for overall, but I'm the 8th best Pokemon book trainer. Taking that title and holding on to it for dear life. So there you have it. That is what I read in May. What did you guys read? Did you also participate in my retellings theme? Were you in Pokemon? What team were you on? How much did you read? I just want to know. What do you guys read? What do you think? You gonna pick up any of these books? If you think you'll like them or not? Cool. Certainly had a pretty decent month with some very highly, I only had one book that I didn't really like, so not a bad reading month. I will see you guys next month for June, which is my Pride month. I already have released my June TBR, and I did a live stream, if you guys didn't know, announcing a bunch of different Pride books that you can check out that I recommend. So you can go check out that live stream, and I also read my first chapter of my own book, which is LGBT inclusive too. So hey, there you go. Go check them out. And if you guys like the content that I'm creating, go check out my Ko-fi page. Commissions are open, and you can help support me as a content creator. And if you have any further questions or comments, you can leave them down below or on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. Bye.